Far får. Nej, får lamm. Hey allihopa! Hi everyone and welcome to another video from Say It in Swedish. I'm your host JOAKIM and today we're gonna talk about that little word få, or for as well. Because I think this is one of the most asked questions online. It's a tricky one, it really is, and today we are gonna go through it. But before we start, I just wanted to remind you of sayitinswedish.com, where I've got lessons for you, real lessons. The videos, they are just bits and pieces, but if you want a real course, go to sayitinswedish.com and please support my work on Patreon. All the links are in the description down below, and if you want to discuss this video afterwards, go to my Discord server. Link for that is also in the description. So these two words, få and får, they mean different things. So let's take få as an adverb can mean few, and får can mean sheep. All right? But we are not going to talk about those two today. We are going to talk about the verb få, which can be a main verb or an auxiliary verb. And we're going to talk about that today. The main verb få means to get or to receive, right? And in this regard, it's very straightforward. Nothing weird about it. You receive something, you get something. Få. So we have, for instance, LEFFE FÅR EN PRESENT. LEFFE FÅR EN PRESENT. LEFFE, which is a nickname for Leif, which is a Swedish name. LEFFE, he receives or gets a present, right? LEFFE gets a present or is getting a present. LEFFE FÅR EN PRESENT. Very, very straightforward, right? So let's move on to the modal verb, the auxiliary verb. That's the difficult one. Let's move on to that one. So we have different meanings. We can use this in very different situations in Swedish, and one of the most basic one is to be allowed, right? To be allowed. And in this regard, it's pretty straightforward as well. He is allowed to do something. LEFFE FÅR ÄTA TÅRTA. LEFFE FÅR ÄTA TÅRTA. LEFFE may eat cake, right? He is allowed to eat cake. And in this regard, it's also pretty straightforward. We have the main verb, which means to receive, to get, and then we have the auxiliary verb, which means to be allowed, and instantly you think about these two when you hear få. However, if you think a bit further, then you realize that få can mean additional things as an auxiliary verb. And I think these are the tricky ones. Even I'm having trouble separating the meanings here. But let's try to do that right now. So one of the meanings is to have to do something, right? And normally we would use the word måste, which is another story. It's a verb without a present tense or a past tense or a infinite tense. It's everything. Måste, it means everything, right? So it's weird, and that's why we use vara tvungen att sometimes, for instance, in the past tense or like that, right? But that's another story. Today we're gonna talk about få, and then this meaning, it doesn't mean that you are allowed to do something. You can feel it from the context with what kind of words it stands together with. So for instance, LEFFE FÅR VÄNTA. LEFFE has to wait. Normally, you wouldn't say that someone is allowed to wait, because waiting isn't something people really want to do, right? So you can see, if it's obvious that something that is not combined with pleasure, obviously it won't mean that someone is allowed to do something. It means that the person has to do something. in this case. And the next meaning is to get someone to do something, to influence someone or inspire someone to do something, right? And this is often used in conjunction with försöka, which means to try. And I think we need to explain this with a huge ass long sentence, right? So we have Leffe försöker få sin vän att komma på festen. Leffe försöker få sin vän att komma på festen. Leffe försöker få sin vän att pronounced like o often, komma på festen. Leffe is trying or tries to get his friend to come to the party. Right? So here he is trying to get. Here you can see the correlation with receive here, because in English it's also to get someone to do something, and you receive, you get something. And when talking about allowed, you get to do something. So you might not have thought about it, but it's basically the same in English here. But anyway, so he tries to get his friend to come to the party. So it's basically få someone at a verb. Okay? And finally, the last meaning is one of the most trickiest meanings, maybe, at least it's a meaning you won't instantly think about because it's so specific. And normally I just say it means nothing, but today I'm finally revealing what it means, and it means to suddenly get input into your senses. So you suddenly feel, hear, see, taste something. All right? Let's take an example again with Leffe. So, Leffe får se sina presenter. Leffe får se sina presenter. I would use this with plötsligt as well. Might feel a bit double, but without context, at least in this case, it could also sound like he's allowed to see his presents, right? Leffe får se sina presenter can mean he is allowed to see his presents, or it means this, that he suddenly sees his presents. So without context, I would add plötsligt here. Leffe får plötsligt se sina presenter, which means he's not suddenly allowed to do it. Right? He's not suddenly allowed to see his presents. He is not allowed in this case. It's something he suddenly recognizes, or he sees it with his eyeballs, right? It's a weird meaning. Yeah. So it's something we just use in Swedish. Plötsligt fick han se en kvinna. Suddenly he sees a woman, right? It's, yeah. It just means this. You suddenly see, or you hear, or you feel something, or you taste something, etc. A lot of these meanings are used like set phrases in conjunction with other verbs and words, and would take me ages to compile a list, so I'm not gonna go through that in today's video, but I want you to listen for it, or to look for it in texts, in books, and whatever you are using as your immersion tool for Swedish. And then think about what I said in this video. Try to think about it and analyze it. Which meaning does it have in this context? That's super duper important to do. And if something's unclear, if you want more examples, just leave me a comment and I will give you some more examples, of course. And to wrap this up, runda av, as we say in Swedish, to wrap this up, I'm just gonna conjugate the verb for you, because we didn't do that. So, få is the infinitive form, tense thing. It's not a tense, it's a form, I guess. Then we have the present tense, får, which sounds like sheep. Then we have the preterite, the simple past or whatever, which is fick. And to you German-speaking people out there, ruffling right now, Yeah. Then we have the supinum form, which is fått, and this is used to construct the perfect tense, or the plusquamperfect, with ha. Har fått and hade fått. You should know these terms by now, right? So anyway, thank you all for watching. Be sure to go to sayitinswedish.com after this video, or check out another video. Go to Discord to talk to me, and what's happening outside, I have no idea. But we will see each other in the next video. Support me on Patreon. Or become a member. You can do that by clicking here. I'm getting stressed out by this noise. Anyway, ha det så bra. Puss och kram. Vi ses. Hej hej. Far. Får. Nej, min son. Nej, vänta, vi tar det. Far. Får. Nej. Far. Får lamm.